Alright guys, welcome to my first YouTube video. Today I'm going to be uncovering my entire life story, from where I was born to how I was raised, the type of trouble I got in, how I overcame a lot of things, and then my journey in sales and where I'm at today. Alright? This all started in Cuba. For everyone that doesn't know me personally, I was actually born in Cuba. People think I'm a gringo. I'm not. De verdad hablo español. Okay? I was raised in Miami from the age of 4 to 14. Glorious upbringing, okay? I didn't know it at the time, but lo and behold, my parents were struggling behind closed doors. I never felt that way. You know what I'm saying? I always had food on the table. I always had a shelter over my head. I was always involved in sports, baseball to be exact, which I'll get into in just a second. But look, coming from Cuba, my parents, they didn't like to break any rules. They didn't like to step on any toes. So that's the way I was raised, okay? I didn't like conflict. I didn't like confrontation. I never got into fights. I was just always a goody two-shoes, right? My dad taught me sacrifice at a very young age. I never had video games. I could never do any of that stuff. While everyone's playing Call of Duty, I'm just playing baseball. I was disgusting at the game of baseball. If God had ever given anyone an ability to do something at a very high level, it was my expertise and my specialty at baseball. I'm Cuban. I mean, it runs in my DNA. Literally from the womb. I kid you, I have 2 friends, if not 3, that are in the major leagues today. This was the type of trajectory that I was on myself. But the thing is, I just didn't understand sacrifice at such an early age. My dad was always my coach, and he would just train me like a professional athlete. I was like, my God, I just want to be a kid. Every time after school where we would drive by, I see all my friends playing basketball. I know they're playing, video games. And then I'm over here working like a pro. And so I was always incredibly good, but I just didn't really understand what's going on. I thought my dad he just slaving me, Anyways, beautiful upbringing. I went to a K-8 school, which was awesome because, I started over there at first grade. I was an Esau kid, didn't speak a lick of English. I grew up watching Power Rangers and all this stuff, Dragon Tales, for any real ones that remember that. And, along the way, this wasn't just friends, these were family. From first grade to 8th grade, I'm still close with a lot of them today. At the age of 14, okay, this was a pivotal moment in my life. At the age of 14, my parents decided to relocate to Orlando. And this sucked because I just grew up with all my friends. I already knew what high school I was going to. I was excited. And then all of a sudden, here I am going to a brand new place where I know nobody. And I was a very shy, insecure kid. I didn't know how to make friends. If you were to tell the Marcos from 10 years ago, yeah, bro, you're going to be filming a YouTube video out here in Utah. You're going to try to be not an influencer, but a content creator. You know what I'm saying? I would have said, you're fucking crazy. That's not me, bro. I'm going to the major leagues. Anyways, at the age of 14, we ended up relocating to Orlando, all right? And this was terrible for me because, like I said, I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to talk to people. So my entire freshman year, I'll sum it up very quickly, I wasn't a troublemaker. I just didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? As embarrassing as it is, I would let everyone skip me in line in the cafeteria because I didn't have anyone to eat with. The moment I got my lunch, I would walk my happy ass to the library and I'll just pretend that I need to do homework because I didn't have a squad to sit with. I didn't have friends. That was my entire freshman year, just until the end. Cool, great. We head into sophomore year. Sophomore year went a lot better, okay? I finally found my little squad. You guys know who you are. Sophomore year was a blast, okay? This is where I started getting into a little trouble. Like I told you, I grew up a saint. Look, my parents don't have a single tattoo on their body. They've never worn any piercings. They don't smoke any weed. They've never messed with cigarettes. They're just by the rule. So this is how I grew up. This is how I was raised. However, in high school, there gets a point where you start getting introduced to drugs, people smoking little vapes, and I resisted it as long as I possibly could until the perfect day just presented itself. I smoked a little weed, and this took I'm not even gonna say a bad turn, but I started liking it, okay? And my parents were very against it. It's not like I told them openly, they caught me, okay? this changed everything. Like, my parents were extremely against that. They started looking at me as a criminal, right? And I couldn't even, like, our relationship really got sour because I no longer felt like their son. Not in a bad way. It's just like I didn't feel comfortable telling them anything. You know, I felt judged all the time. And so there was a huge separation, and it was like this for a very long time. However, we still lived under the same household, so yeah, it was like a mother-son, you know, duo, and you know, my dad was still my dad. But we weren't very close. It was more like, hey, how are you? How was school? Great, good, boom, boom, off to my room. That's how I spent like the rest of my high school years, okay? Heading into my junior year, mind you, I switched from baseball, my God-given ability, to basketball. First of all, because I'm an idiot, but second of all, I just didn't understand what was going on, okay? Although I was really good at baseball, this was still in Miami. Okay, guys, by the way, like when people say like, oh, I was good at baseball, bro, if it wasn't for this injury, like, no. I was disgusting. Like I said, I have 3 friends in the major leagues right now. The team I was with, we were running shit for like, we were #1 in the country for years. Every tournament we go to, we just sweep shit. Anyways, I was always a late bloomer. So while everyone was hitting puberty and growing armpit hair and gaining 6 inches, I'm still like little old Marcos. And then my talent wasn't getting me as far anymore, my potential. So now it was really like where I had to work harder. And I'm gonna be honest, I just didn't want to. I already worked hard enough. And so I just quit, I gave up, I transitioned to basketball. I just wanted to have fun, okay? Biggest mistake of my life till this day. That is my only regret in life. My high school years, I was playing basketball, played freshman year, JV. I sucked, all right? I was absolutely terrible. I was good at pickup, but when the lights were on and like the game meant something, I was atrocious, all right? I scored like maybe 2 points a game. As I was heading into my junior year, I realized, hey, bro, like, you know, you're going to have to figure something out because it's clear that you're not going to go to college for basketball, bro. You're not that good. You're not good at all. Matter of fact, this is where, like, you know, reality started kicking in. You got kids dunking. You got this big old 6'4", you know what I'm saying? Like, just jumping out the gym and doing crazy shit. And I'm here riding the bench. I wasn't even a starter on my JV team. And so reality started kicking in. And there was always one thing I knew. I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor. I knew I wasn't going to be a nurse, a lawyer, an attorney, none of that stuff. So I knew school was just not my route, okay? But I just always did it because when you play sports, you have to get good grades. Your teachers are always communicating with your coaches. And so teachers and administrators, they try to get fancy with me, and I would not allow that. They would try to put me in honor roll classes. They would try to put me in like AP. I'm like, whoa. We're gonna chill out here and you're gonna give me a regular ass class so I could get my B and pass the grade. Thank you very much, all right? All I gave a shit about was sports. People say student athlete, I was an athlete student. Like, I didn't give a shit. Okay, this was a funny moment. This sophomore summer heading into my junior year, I'm in a tournament, a basketball tournament, and it was at this very moment. I'm sitting on the bench. I think like someone just ended up dunking or something, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? As the game is going on, I'm having like a major midlife crisis. I'm like, holy shit, bro, like, how am I gonna go to college? And it was at that very moment that I realized, dude, I think the only way for you to get a scholarship is like, you're gonna have to go back to baseball, bro. And people had tried convincing me. I haven't picked up a bat, you know, a bucket of balls in 6 years. I was done with it. But it was kind of like do or die, and I'm like, wow, I think I'm gonna have to do this again. Like, I don't see any other route. And so I didn't know how to tell my dad. My dad was always my coach. You know, I had given it up for many years. A week later, we go to Mexico, and it's when I break the news to him. He's like, you serious? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what, like, I don't know how serious you really are, so let's just start lightly, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get you a glove from Walmart for like 20 bucks. You know, we're gonna find a little shitty bat, and if I see that you stick with this, then we'll kinda, you know, like upgrade the gear, because a glove costs $300-400 bucks. A bat costs another $200-300, a bucket of balls, some spikes, some cleats, some, you know. This is a big investment, and he didn't know how serious I was taking it, so I'm like, cool, I'll work with whatever. We had 2 months to train before tryouts. Every day. It was kind of nostalgic because you know, my dad was always my coach growing up, and then like now I had a reason to do it. And remember, I was a natural, so it didn't take long to kind of pick it back up again. I end up trying out for the team. I end up making the team. I'm not saying I'm the reason, but that was the first year in school history that our team and our school won a state championship in one of the hardest divisions. So I wasn't, you know, the main character or anything like that, but I did play a huge role. And then my following year, senior year, at this point I had been playing ball for, you know, a little over a year. And we ended up getting second place in states. I was team captain. I hit like 460. I was crushing it. All right, I was killing it. But check this out, 0 scholarships. Look, the school I was in, it wasn't like, you know, it's not like we had scouts in the seats, and like, you know, our coach wasn't that well connected. So although I was disgusting, I just wasn't getting a lot of eyeballs, and attention is everything. So, you know, the best I got was a little walk-on scholarship to a community college 40 minutes away. I paid for everything, okay? I ended up going to college. You know, it took 6 months, 1 semester to realize, dude, I had the same realization in basketball. I'm like, bro, like these people are disgusting. You know, I'm not sure if you're gonna make it, and you know, I would hate to waste 4 to 5 years going to, like, this isn't a game anymore. You know, this is a job. You're waking up at 6 in the morning, you're getting home at 7, 8 at night. This is a full-time job. If your heart's not in it and you don't think you're gonna make it, what's the point of it? Like, I'm not the type to waste my time, you know, especially if my heart's not in it. So look, I'm gonna be honest, you know, until like a few years ago, like the easiest thing for me to just always, it was just like, fuck it, I quit, you know? Like, I just wasn't mentally tough. I didn't know about personal development. I didn't know about sticking it through. I just, like, I would always let my talent and my potential take me this far, and anything past that, like, you know, that's it. I was screwed. So anyways, boom, I'm done with baseball. I tell my dad, you know, I didn't know how he was gonna take it. He was like, listen, you know, it is what it is. But then I added a little cherry on top, a little something unexpected that he wasn't expecting. I told him, look, I'm not just done with baseball, I'm done with school. I fucking hate this thing. Like, I can't. I already failed 2 classes. I'm not showing up. Like, I don't care what you got to say. Remember, my dad is by the rule book. My dad bought into the system, man. He came from Cuba, past the age of 30. He came from nothing. He worked at a warehouse. He did odd jobs. He got paid $12 an hour. And what changed our family's trajectory was him going to school, him getting a degree, him turning into a registered nurse. So he thought that, like, I had to do the same thing. I'm like, bro, like, we live in 2025. Like, at that time it was 2020, but I'm like, bro, I didn't grow up with the same opportunities as you do. We got 16-year-old, we got 18-year-old kids making hella money, trading and online and like in the digital world. Like, I don't have to follow your path. I was born here in the US. I do speak both languages. Like, I have a much better opportunity than you. But listen, point is, like, you know, my dad didn't take it very well. He's like, you're gonna be a bum, you're gonna be working at McDonald's. I said, I don't give a fuck. All right, like, let me figure it out. So I did. I started, okay? At the time, I was dating my high school sweetheart, my ex-girlfriend now for many years, but anyways, her dad was doing insurance, okay? He was financial services. Not that he was like killing it, but like I always thought he did well enough, right? And he was like a businessman. So one day we sit down and he breaks down a very familiar, unfamiliar to me, but a business model that's now familiar to me. A lot of you guys might know it's a company called Primerica, okay? A lot of people shit on it and have bad things to say, bad reputation. Listen, at the time it was freaking amazing to me because it got me into personal development. I got surrounded by a good environment. I saw kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And when he sat me down, he showed me, like, look, when you go and you work hourly, you're getting paid by the hour. Like, there's no room for potential. Like, you're capped, okay? If it's $18 an hour, you're fucked, okay? When you go commission, when you own your own business, you can make it an hour what some people make it a week. You could then start recruiting people and building a team, you know, so you can get overrides. And this is how people get financially ahead. And like, listen, I was terrible at school, but the one thing that made sense to me was always math and numbers. Numbers make sense. So I understood it, okay? I didn't know if I was gonna be in financial services and insurance my whole life, but I'm like, dude, I don't have a better choice right now. Like, this is step one. All right, cool, boom. I sucked, all right? Like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm out here in the streets, 19 years old, trying to talk to people about life insurance. Like, no one wants to buy life insurance on me. I'm 19. I got my face full of acne. I was terrible. I was awkward. And so that didn't last very long, but it did kickstart the journey, okay? From there, I worked at a little shitty pizzeria job. I tried selling cars for a little. I did customer service. And at this point, like maybe 2-3 years had gone by, I was starting to get a little worried. I'm like, shit, I thought I would have had it figured out by now, making 100 grand, like this, you know, delusional dream. And I wasn't, okay? I was still like, you know, I didn't have a clear path. And then I had like my first tiny little breakthrough at, it was an insurance gig, okay, but it was a little different. Rather than going out there and prospecting and recruiting and talking in the cold market, I would just buy leads and kind of like cold call them and like door knock them. Listen, these people were terrible. I'm talking about like these people were poverty, right? Living off Social Security, 60, 70, 80 years old. They get $1,300 a month to stretch, and they might have $50 at the end of the paycheck that I'm trying to get them to buy some life insurance. They were broke as hell, all right? Like living in shelters and like they were just terrible. Anytime I would ever make a sale, I would always get a chargeback, and the chargeback would always come after I already put money down for a hotel, spend money on fast food, gasoline every single day, you know, like reinvesting into leads. So I was going negative. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like this is trash, okay? It was so bad. I remember I was doing this job, you know, with my ex-girlfriend by my side. Not even because I wanted to, kind of because we had to. Like, I didn't have the money to spare every day to buy a hotel. And I wasn't driving 2 hours over there and 2 hours back to do it again 2 hours in the... No, I'd rather just stay at a hotel, you know? So we would split the hotel 50... I'm talking about a shitty motel, $60, $70 with cockroaches. This place was disgusting. But it was just like, you know, we were like 20, 21, 22 years old, whatever we were. And like, these were just simpler times. So I didn't, you know, I had never... experienced anything bougie. I had never been in nice hotels. Like, this is all I knew. So, you know, we'd have a little weed to smoke at the end of the day. You know, we grabbed some sushi, and like, it was just simpler times. But the job sucked. And there were times where we didn't even have enough money to sleep at a hotel. We would just sleep in the car. Terrible. Finally, my first breakthrough around the age of 22, 23, you know, I got an opportunity. It was a very like Wolf of Wall Street type, you know, cold calling style, just slamming the phones, 200-300 calls a day. And these people were everything that I was looking for. You know, we would dress sharp. It was the first time that I ever felt like money, spoke like money, you know, got trained by people that were making money. And so these people were everything that I was looking for. And they turned me into a beast. I went from like literally having a balance. I remember when I started that job, I had less than $100. I literally had to break the piggy bank to invest in like my license or like some type of certificate. I don't freaking know, but I guarantee you I was under $100. That was my investment. I finished that year somewhere between like 70, 80, 100 grand. You know, like I can't, that's how, not how much money I was making, but compared to before, like, I guess it was so much, you know, when you're not making that much money, you can count it. I was having Zells coming in, commissions. I was just like, bro, life was good at that time. I did that for about 1.5 years, but check this out. Who the fuck can do that job? I'm talking about, bro, slavery, Monday through Sunday. You get there at 8 in the morning, and I would leave there at 10 at night every single day. Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, including holidays. They would just brainwash you into working for them. And so I ate that shit up for a while. But who the fuck can do that for a long period of time? I mean, bro, it only took about 3 to 6 months for me to start popping Adderalls every day. I was smoking weed during every single break. You know, I started gambling because that's what they were doing. You become a product of your environment. You know what I'm saying? So, look, that job served me, and I did make good, very good money. And it was the first time I cracked 100 grand. You know, I did that for about 2 years. But then it got to the point where I was looking at the people above me, and I'm like, you know what, bro? Like, yes, I would trade income with you, but I wouldn't trade lifestyles with you, bro. You're in this office just as much as I am, and I don't really see you happy. Like, no offense. You know what I'm saying? You're always kind of like bitching with your wife, and like you got problems going on. Like, I'll trade money with you, but I wouldn't trade life. So I started exploring, okay? And look, to make a long story short, I transitioned into another insurance gig. That didn't go very well. But I learned. And check this out though. I went from telemarketing to network marketing, which was shaking hands, okay? And shaking hands and like, instead of buying leads, drawing them organically. And so I didn't have that skill set. I was very good at just cold calling and, rebuttaling and getting you to hang in there. But in terms of like, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Where you from? What do you do for work? And like bringing up business, I didn't know how to do that. So at this point, I had saved up like 50 grand or something like that. I'm like, dude, what good is this 50 grand? Like, what am I going to do with 50 grand? Invest it in what? I don't know what to invest in. Like, I need a mentor, So this is when I really got into mentorship. You know what I'm saying? So I hired a guy named Cesar Rodriguez, one of the best network marketers to ever do it. This guy is the man when it comes to meeting someone for the first time, meeting a stranger, getting to know them, getting their phone number, talking to anyone, anytime, any place, no problem, and getting their number in a very natural way, and just making it look like having a good time doing it. I said, you're the best in this. I need you. And then my boy Rafael Tats, he was killing it on social media, freaking tatted up, face tats, everything. My boy is disgusting with it though. And I said, I need to grow a personal brand. So I got him for in-person, Caesar for in-person, and I got Rafael for social media. And I start learning. Listen, it wasn't a one day to the next type of thing, but I'm always like, I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the growth, right? And so this is like, listen, I've only been doing this. I started this in 2025. Look at me now. I'm doing a YouTube video. I never thought I'd be getting into YouTube. I just wanted to get a couple leads, but who knows where this is going to go. But guys, I mean, look, I'm going to wrap it up with this. My life, like, I just feel good. I feel good because I'm out here in fucking Utah. I don't know how the hell I ended up in Utah. This year I've been to London, I've been to Aruba, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Arizona, I've been to Miami a bunch of times. I've just been traveling, okay? Through my connections and through my networking. A lot of people, they just connect online. That's cool, I could do that too. Anyone could do that. Anyone could swipe right on Tinder, but can you have a conversation with a regular human being that you just met? Hey man, how's it going? What you up to? What brings you to Utah? You know what I'm saying? Nice. Hey, we should stay connected here. Are you on Instagram? Boom. Like, people aren't good at that anymore. And so I really wanted to work on that skill set, because if I can separate myself from the competition, that's how you stand out. And in 2025, I believe that's a superpower. So through these connections and through these networks and through these mentors, hold up, I almost forgot one of the biggest parts of this, but through all these connections, I ended up landing one of the biggest opportunities ever in the travel space. My mentor, Cesar Rodriguez, he connected me to one of the biggest network marketers out in Europe. He runs one of the biggest travel clubs. This guy makes over $2 million a year. His name is Antonio Martinez. He has partners over 50,000. This guy's just crushing it. And he said, bro, most of the travel going on is not in Europe. Okay, it's here in the US, and I don't have a team, and I want you to be one of my right-hand mans because you got a good network, you're very good, I see the potential in you. Let's fucking work. Let's run it, bro. Let's do it. That's exactly who I was looking for. To get someone's life, you got to figure out like, yo, whose life do I want? And then follow the steps that they took to get there. So this is the #1 money earner in the company, and he's giving me an opportunity to learn from him, get coached by him, travel the world with him, and just expand and learn everything that he did. Come on, bro. Who's gonna give that up? So that's why I gave up insurance. All right, I still kind of do it part-time. I did it for so long, I get referrals, but I'm gonna be honest, look, my heart's not in it anymore, okay? My heart is just in pure personal growth, development, traveling, new experiences. I'm out here in Utah. Just life is amazing, okay? I almost left the most important thing out, guys. So I had Caesar, I had Rafael. Although I was pretty good and I was learning everything, look, I'm gonna be honest, 2024 was a rough year, because when I went from, everything was tied to my ego, reinvesting that 50 grand that I had saved up, and, I took a little hit in income for a little while. I didn't know how to deal with that. And I just got tired of the whole insurance thing. I said, man, to get to the next level, like, I got to leave the old me behind. And it just got to the point where I had been working with all these people, you know, same office, same people for like 3 years, going to the same places, doing the same bullshit, same girlfriend. I was just like, man, I'm tired of it all. All right, I'm just tired of it all. Like, I need a new life, and I knew I needed to leave, okay? And so as I was figuring things out, you know, I gave up weed for a little while. Guess what? Started drinking like crazy. I almost killed myself in 2024. I crashed into an 18-wheeler, and by the God's grace, I didn't get a DUI. That would have sent me back so freaking bad. Grateful to be alive. I had a very bad drug and alcohol problem for, listen, I never gave up weed from the day that I started smoking sophomore year. Never gave it up. Occasionally I would take like couple days off here and there, but like it was just, I relied on it heavy. And when I stopped smoking weed, I got into alcohol. And the worst part is I like alcohol even more. It was that bad, all right? And, you know, Adderall was always a thing for me too. I thought my microphone was there. I was about to lose my shit. Alcohol was always bad for me too. Adderall. So like, I just didn't know how to cope with my mind. I didn't know how to cope with real life problems. You know, anytime there was a slight inconvenience or like something didn't go my way, holy shit, yo, bro, you trying to smoke? Yo, bro, I need to go get a bottle. I need to take a shot. I need to do this. Like, I just couldn't just fucking sit there and deal with it and overcome it mentally. All right. And for a long time, it was that way until I met the guy who actually changed my life. His name is Wade Houston. Wade, if you're seeing this, brother, thank you for everything. Like, you know, man, Caesar was a huge pivotal moment in my career. Rafael was a huge pivotal moment in my career, in my life. But you, bro, you have just absolutely changed me from the old Marcos to the new one, where I feel it, bro. You know? And anyways, this isn't like, you know, to hype you up or like to make this about you. But when I met this gentleman, Wade, it was his story that impacted me, from a degenerate drug addict to being like the golden child. Like, he had huge potential in him, right? And then he got into drugs and alcohol, and that completely ruined his life. He ended up getting like 3 DUIs, assault charges, you know, bad relationship with his parents, like everything, you know, terrible, like downgrading jobs. He worked in financial services. I saw myself in him, and I'm like, holy fuck, bro, if this guy overcame his life, maybe I have a shot. And so I've always been very systematic. I've always been very strategic. And what he showed me was a protocol, a systematic way about going about your day, waking up at the same time each day, hydrating as soon as you get up, praying and having a relationship with the Lord, meditating and listening to what God has to say back to you, journaling, reading. Like, I was so inconsistent. I was so inconsistent with all these things that now that it's a non-negotiable, not Monday through Friday and weekends off, no, Monday through Sunday, this changed the game. And so now that I've been operating like this for a few weeks, few months now, I could tell you where I'm heading. I feel it. Hope you can feel it too. And this is something that I do foresee myself doing in the near future, because I am very passionate about this, and I want to be an example to the Marcos from a year ago, from 2 years ago, from 3 years ago, who was afraid to get on social media, who was afraid to build his brand, who was afraid to talk to people, who was unconfident, who was chubby. I'm fucking shredded now. I feel good. I can talk to anyone at any time. I'm traveling the world. Life isn't perfect, and I'm not claiming to be a millionaire. Almost said billionaire. That'd be nice. But I'll tell you what, I feel like I do have it figured out, and I feel like I do know where my life is heading. I kind of leave that up to God. I don't like to force too many things, but look, if you made it this far, you probably feel some type of connection. I am just looking to build a community of people, all right? I'm a student of the game. I got a lot to teach, but I also got a lot to learn. And I'm only an expert, or I'm only good in certain areas. I would like to collaborate and learn from others. If you're good at AI, if you're good with finances, if you're good at investing, listen, I can see through the bullshit, all right? So I don't mind connecting, but if you're gonna give me some, like, you know, I can read right through that shit, all right? I've been working with high-level people. I've been surrounded by millionaires, six-figure earners for a very long time now. I know who's who, you know what I'm saying? So don't come to me with no bullshit. But anyways, I am building a community. If you're looking to level up, or if you can level me up, let's connect. If you made it this far, guys, this journey is just the beginning. I can't believe I just freestyled this whole shit. I don't know how long I've been going, hopefully under 20 minutes, maybe 30. But listen, I've gotten good at storytelling. I like, giving details and the juicy parts. I got a lot more to share, but this was just kind of like a brief summary of my whole life story. Guys, this is just the beginning, and can't wait to see where this takes me. See you at the next one. Not bad. Hopefully my phone didn't overheat.